The Bigger They Are by Damon Yeargain. That first time I beat Eddie at racquetball was especially sweet. Not only did it mark the end of a 1.5-year losing streak, but it was payback for his relentless whining. Can you imagine putting up with someone complaining every time you played them? Think of the poor sportsmanship. And all because a tiny rubber ball happened to land in the small of his back once in a while. In my defense, how was I supposed to miss him? The big bastard is like 7'10" and weighs 800 pounds, and he planted himself right in the middle of the court. All right, I admit it. When he was destroying me game after game, I may have chuckled a bit when I heard that distinctive thwack as the ball smacked into him, but that doesn't mean I did it on purpose, does it? He'll tell you otherwise, but I totally kicked his ass that game. 17-15, I vividly remember dominating the sudden death rounds. I guess the embarrassment was too much for him to bear. While I was in the shower, content in my happy little bubble, basking in the glow of my great, beautiful victory, Eddie was up to something. Something devious. Did I mention Eddie never showers? Claims he takes one when he gets home. That would be fine if he drove home or lived within walking distance as I do, but Eddie takes the train during rush hour. Picture it. You're exhausted after a long day just trying to get home, eat, collapse into bed. The train is standing room only, forcing you to squeeze between other riders and cling to the last sliver of space on a pole. Out of the corner of your eye, you spot an empty seat. A big oaf is taking half of it, but a seat's a seat. You don't hesitate. You plop your tired rear end into it before someone else does. Settling in, feeling like the canary that robbed Fort Knox, you're suddenly slapped in the face with the stench of something foul. You've had a very stressful day, and for the next horrifying moment, you just hope to God it isn't you. Stealing a sidelong glance, you discover the source, a giant hulk of a gorilla wearing ratty workout clothes. His sweaty, hairy legs and arms are pressed against your crisply pressed suit. Congratulations! You've just become acquainted with Big E, the undisputed king of hygiene. Sorry for the digression. After my shower, I reached for my towel. It was gone. That should have been my first clue, but figuring I'd just forgotten to grab one, I stepped out, dripping wet, and walked over to the towel station. There were no towels. That was very strange. One of the things I loved about that gym was their attention to detail. The towel station was always filled with fresh, clean towels. Still soaking wet and not catching on, I headed to the locker Eddie and I shared, number 318. The lock was gone. Holding my breath, I yanked the locker door open. Empty. Panic pulsed through me as I mentally inventoried the items I had with me that day. Wallet, phone, credit cards. Could someone have stolen my stuff? I didn't think anyone besides Eddie and me had been in the gym. Maybe I had the wrong locker. I tried 317. I tried lockers in descending order. 316, 315, 314, then ascending. You get the point. Empty. Every last one. Empty. In desperation, I went back to 318. This time I spotted a small folded piece of paper at the bottom of the locker. I snatched it up and opened it. In barely legible handwriting, as if a caveman had written it, were the words, "Ha ha," signed Big E. I almost toppled over with shock. Eddie could read? And sign his name, too? Who knew? I searched the locker room to see if anyone else was around to help a fellow citizen a little down on his luck. While we'd been playing, the only person I saw in the gym besides Eddie and myself was the really cute gym attendant, the one who kept the place spotless. I knew her name was Carol by her name tag. I'd been meaning to ask her out, but hadn't quite gotten around to it. Now, don't get any ideas about me chickening out. The opportunity just hadn't presented itself. That's all. There was no one else in the locker room, so I made my way to the bathroom for some paper towels to dry off. For whatever reason, there was only a single dispenser. It contained exactly one towel. Can you believe that? One flippin' towel. I refused to accept it. I jammed my fist into the dispenser to prove that there were more. I twisted it every which way, but the only thing in there was one very stuck hand. My next maneuver was to do what any rational person would do. I ripped the dispenser off the wall. I then banged it against the sink and tried to hurl it like a baseball. The unwanted appendage was still attached to my hand, so I placed my foot on it and pulled as hard as I could. That worked a little too well. I not only freed my hand, I freed some skin from the tyranny of being attached to my fingers. The dispenser flew up and damn near poked me in the eye. So as not to be left out, my foot now had a bleeding gash. Naked, wet, bleeding, and defeated, I collapsed onto the floor. I was going to find a way to get even with that big bastard if it was the last thing I did. Wait a minute, I thought. Carol. I quickly dried myself off as best I could with one crumpled paper towel, arranged my hair with my skinless fingers, and slip-slided my way to the locker room entrance, leaving a trail of blood from my foot behind me. And Eddie thought he could get the best of me. Crouching like a guilty pervert, I shielded as much of myself as possible while peeking my head around the corner of the entrance to the men's locker room. "Is anybody there?" I called. No answer. I yelled again, louder. Still no answer. After more failed attempts, it occurred to me she might be out cleaning the pool, which was blocked off from the rest of the gym by a glass partition, in which case she wouldn't be able to hear me no matter how loudly I yelled. I waited, periodically sticking my head out and yelling for her. After my fourth or fifth attempt, I was suddenly startled to find her standing directly in front of me. This caused me to lose my footing on the wet floor. I didn't have time to get my hands in front of me. My nose took the brunt of the impact. The next thing I knew, I was sitting in a chair with Carol standing over me, handing me an ice pack for my nose. In spite of the circumstances, I was determined to be at my suave best. I tried to strike up a conversation, but between the ice pack on my nose and the cool air hitting my bare skin, I began shivering profusely. All I could get out was, "Could you get me some clothes?" Long past closing time, after Carol bandaged my foot and dug up my clothes from the lost and found, I assured her I didn't live too far and could easily walk home. My clothes was not a slip. Carol had found my stuff. All of it. Keys, wallet, phone, and clothes were in the lost and found. Seems Eddie wrapped a giant rubber band around them with a note that read, "No longer lost." She said she stumbled upon it while searching for some clothes for me and couldn't help but laugh. We both laughed, I had to admit. For a guy that could be very well the missing link, it was actually kind of clever. But not so clever. I mean, what if someone else had found them first? So I was still intent on killing him. About halfway home, I had an epiphany that almost knocked me off my feet. It was the kind of philosophical insight that makes you question your rightful place in the world and where you stand in relation to everything else. Maybe she'd been too caught up in the calamity to think about it. She couldn't have tuned it out entirely, though, could she? I mean, I had been completely naked in front of her, and she had been very sweet, maybe a little too sweet for someone simply acting in the line of duty. So if she gave it even the tiniest, most infinitesimally small, fleeting moment of thought, did she like what she saw? Well, gentlemen, I believe you know the answer to that question. So get your glasses in the air, a toast to the big bastard, my best man, for pulling off, for probably the first time in history, a practical joke that led to a wedding. The end. What's that? Oh, I knew that joke was coming. Yes, it's infinitesimally small. She has to get out a magnifying glass to see it. Ha ha, you're so funny, Eddie. I'd suggest wearing a helmet next time we play racquetball. What do I mean? I mean it won't be the small of your back I'm aiming for next time. Disclosure. Any resemblance to actual people, places, or events is purely coincidental. Unless you're Eddie, in which case lighten up. The author did not intentionally aim the ball at your back. Probably.